Hello and welcome to my first video in probably like 9 months. To get things out of the way first, I'm not going to do a draft recap video yet. I've got a few technical issues that I'm sorting out first. There will be one coming probably before the second week of NPL is uploaded. But I've just got a few things that I need to sort out on my end, which is why the sound quality is also probably a little bit worse in this video than normal. I've got some issues that I'm in the middle of sorting out, and we were up against Aster J. I'm not going to do a full draft review now, but I'll just run over my team. Mega Charizard X, Zeraora, Zed Manaphy, Celebi, Togekiss, Scizor, Alolan Persian, Gengar, Archeops, Donphan, Cutiefly, and Venipede, with the thought basically being, right, I can run this team and I can run pretty offensive builds pretty much every week and just try and do well that way. I'm quite out of practice, but I've been given the chance to compete in the NPL again, which I'm grateful for. And my first opponent is Aster J. Starting off lovely for me with my first Mons game back in months. Then again, I probably should have just warmed up or something. Anyway, he drafted Lando T, Keldeo, Scizor, Hooper, Alomomola, Jolteon, Rhyperior, Dragalge, Gardevoir, Gogoat, Golurk, and Golbat, because he hates me with the last three, and I find it really difficult to say those in quick succession, without at least messing up one of them. Now, building this team, I was certain that there wasn't going to be a Gogoat. I was actually pretty surprised to see Mega Scizor, and looking at his team, I actually really thought that SD passing with my Scizor into Zeraora and Charizard would be incredibly effective because, well, he just kind of doesn't really have things that can deal with them very well, especially if I could potentially set up on something like the Scizor, along with the fact that Scizor is a threat at +2. Look at the team he's brought. Scizor at +2 knocks out most of these things after a couple rounds of Stealth Rock. Unfortunately, I didn't bring Stealth Rock, but still. That's one of the bigger weaknesses of my draft, the fact that I don't have any rock setters, well, many rock setters that are good. So seeing this team, I'll run through the sets briefly. I'll put a paste bin in the description as well. I had Scarf Togekiss, Zed Rain Dance Manaphy with Calm Mind, Scold, and Rest. 4 attacks Zeraora with various coverage moves that you'll see throughout the game. Sub Wisp, Roost, Dragon Claw, Charizard, which is an odd set, I'll grant you, because it can't really deal with Scizor, but looking at the matchup, I didn't really think that he'd have that much that would be able to deal with a Sub-Wisp Charizard, the biggest counters to it on his team being the Alomomola and the Rhyperior, and maybe the Golurk as well, you could argue, but those two being bigger ones, and of course Lando T. Now, Lando T obviously hates taking a Wisp to the face. I do have Togekiss and Alolan Persian, which can help me deal with the Lando T, and I just generally thought that Charizard would be very good with that set in this matchup. SD Pass Scizor with Bullet Punch, Sub, and Baton Pass, and a Persian set that I believe was just Parting Shot, knockoff. No, it was Parting Shot, Foul Play. Possibly, no, Thunderbolt and Icy Wind, I think. I honestly can't really remember. Definitely had Foul Play for the Hoop. Yeah, we'll look at the team in game and see how it does. Aster's obviously brought the ones he has. I've been waffling on for a while, so let's just start it. He leads off Lando, I lead off Togekiss. Because this is a Scarf Togekiss, I can now see for a fact that is Scarf Lando T. I crit him with an Air Slash and that does nothing. So that means that is a very defensive Alomomola. I decided to go out into my Manaphy because Manaphy could really take on anything that Alomomola wanted to do. I tricked the Dragalge, got a Specs as he went for the Draco Meteor. Now I've got a Specs Togekiss, however it can't really break through a Alomomola based on the damage, so I went into my Scizor to set up a Sub and SD up, because basically this Scizor had been EV'd such that I could take on Alomomola comfortably. However, he then reveals Curse on his Scizor, and that kind of ruins everything. because Curse Mega Scizor is not knocked out by my Zeraora set. I did not pack Fire Punch. I packed Grass Knot and Hidden Power Ice along with Knockoff in order to best cover the rest of his team, because I frankly thought that a +4 attack Zeraora would be able to take on pretty much any Mega Scizor that he could bring, and Curse was just an amazing bit of prep on his part, as Plasma Fists does barely anything. I go for a crit a couple times here as well, and just try and see if we can win the 1v1 here, but it's a losing battle that I know I'm losing, because if he ever decides just to Bullet Punch, it's just it's so simple for him. I can go into Charizard here and just set off a Will-O-Wisp pretty easily, burning the Rhyperior on the switch in, which is nice because it's no longer really a counter to me. I can sub up here, but I really don't think that that's the best decision to make, so I decide to go out into my Alolan Persian. Alolan Persian gives me momentum if I decide to go with Parting Shots. It puts pressure on his team because it can weaken the Rhyperior, and if I'm a DD Charizard, which he doesn't yet know, it could do a lot of damage to him. I decide to Icy Wind. Just generally I thought it was the best play, lower everything's speed and just hits a lot of things decently. He does go out into Scizor and reveals the U-turn, whistling away at my Charizard, which is not ideal for me. Lando T comes in. Obviously it's a big threat. I actually kind of thought he would go to the U-turn again to try and get more momentum, and so I stayed in, trying to roost up basically. That didn't work. I go out into my Togekiss as he goes into Dragalge. I go for the Air Slash here because I didn't think he would go into Alolan Mola when I've already revealed that I've got Trick. I go for a flinch, it works, and Dragalge gets taken down quite low. However, he does now go out into his Assault Missile and Momola just to comfortably eat up the hit. And he's going into his Rhyperior here. I'm kind of on the thought right now of Togekiss can bust some holes in his team, and what I'm thinking my most effective win con is probably Last Mon Calm Minding Manaphy. Last Mon in case he's got Roar on something, or Dragon Tail on his Dragalge also, which I was actually thinking was a legitimate possibility at this point. It wouldn't really make much sense with the spec set, but with the coverage options Dragalge had, I thought the Dragon Tail was an option to try and deal with my setup. So I was just happy to get rid of something with the Togekiss, especially considering how weakened it would become. He does go out into Dragalge. It's a threat, obviously. I go out into my Scizor, and I'm in an uncomfortable position here because Curse Mega Scizor is a big threat to me, and I don't really have an effective way of dealing with it other than trying to SD up with my Plasma Fist user of Zeraora and try to potentially crit him and just out boost him basically, which is never a position I'm particularly happy to be in, especially when realistically Zeraora is going to struggle in order to beat the Lando T and everything else on the team, and my most effective answer to the Scizor is honestly probably just Skull burning it with Manaphy at some point. However, I do think that subbing up, it at least gives me a chance to try and break the Scizor, especially now that I'm +6 attack. So I can go out into my Zeraora. Bullet Punch does of course break the sub because it's a +3 Mega Scizor, of course is breaking the sub. However, +3 Mega Scizor is not a guaranteed kill on my Zeraora. So he does switch out. I do have Sugar Berry on the Zeraora, so I can just knock it out with a knockoff. He admitted after the game that he thought that he should have U-turned here, and U-turning was the better play. I just didn't see that as a possibility. He goes out into Mega Scizor, and because I don't run bulk on this, I do die to the Bullet Punch. I probably would have died anyway, especially considering that it's an attack-invested Mega Scizor, I believe. But I can go out into my Manaphy here, and I can set up the Z Rain Dance. I knew he wasn't going to stay in the Scizor because Scizor is his best way of dealing with my SD Scizor, so I thought it would be best to set up the Rain Dance as soon as possible. And I wanted the speed boost just in case the Hooper had something funky, but it turns out he had Icy Wind on his Alomomola. Now, I don't want to deal with that in particular. So I just Carmine up. He's just going to go for Scolds and Icy Winds, lower my speed. We're going to put this on fast because nothing really happens in the next few turns. I go for Rest a few times, I go for Rain Dance a few times, and I Carmine up to +6. But, yeah. And eventually I'm at +6 special attack, +6 special defense, but -6 in speed, which basically means that everything on his team will outspeed me, barring nothing. However, he's now in the situation where nothing can actually knock me out. He does, however, reveal on this turn Mirror Coat. Now, I was expecting Mirror Coat from around turn 35 or so, and at this point it just becomes a difficulty to know when to go for various moves. I go for Calm Mind, and here I do decide to go for the Rain Dance. I got my turns mixed up. Eventually, when Rain Dance, when the rain runs out, I do decide to go for a Scald in order to try and just do a lot of damage to him with the guarantee that even if he does go for Mirror Coat on that turn, it does not knock me out. And the hope that even if he does go for it, I can then potentially just wear down his Aloma Molar by that sort of way. And he does have the threat of PP Stall. Now I go for the Scald, it burns him, which helps me a lot considering it's not left over, and he does go for Mirror Coat, which knocks me down to 34%. And here, I was actually considering going for Scald here because I thought it was a general 50-50. If I went for Rain Dance and he stayed in, I won. If I went for Scald and he stayed in, he won. Same vice versa. Because Dragalge can't knock me out, Scizor can't knock me out, and it's not so right to say that if I Scalded that turn, I would have won. In fairness, because realistically, if I Scalded and the Hooper came in, he would then go out into Scizor, he would then U-turn on my Rain Dance and probably be able to knock me out with Dragalge. Or no, I would have roosted where I'm on it, or I would have rested immediately. I'm being silly. But it still would not have been guaranteed at all. Curse Mega Scizor and Mirror Coat shenanigans with Aloma Molar make it difficult to win even if I do Scald here. However, getting this 50-50 wrong just confirms that I've lost this game, as Hooper can easily knock me out from this position, and from here Mega Scizor will just be able to easily sweep up the rest of the game. So, first match back, we take a pretty big L, unfortunately, but nothing you can really do. He just played very well in this situation. I have no qualms about admitting that. I do get burnt on my Scizor, but his Mega Scizor always beats my regular Scizor 100% of the time, so I never really thought I was in a winning position in this situation. I do pass a sub to my Alolan Persian because I technically have a chance to win if I crit, but I don't crit, so here I was actually going for the Para. I don't know why I didn't go for the crit again, but yeah. A bit of a sad way to end my first match back. However, full credit to Aster, and once again, apologies about the various, the long pause between uploads. Really wasn't feeling Meenz last year, and just took a long break, but I'm back into the swing of things now. I'm trying to get back into it, and I'll see you all probably for a draft recap before week 2. However, if various things take a bit longer than I expect them to, it might be week 2 and then the draft recap. Yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace.